The IRONMAN World Championship is just days away and the women's field is one of the deepest we've ever seen. Over the past week, I've been breaking down each of my favourites to take the win, but the field is more than just 5 athletes. I've got another 14 who are going to be pushing them all the way and battling it out for a top 10 finish. In this video, I'll break down each of those athletes, see where they fit into the race and make my picks for the top 10. But firstly, how do I go about narrowing down the rest of the field to just 14 athletes? Well, we've got 3 women who have won an Ironman Pro Series race over the full distance. And then I've looked at the other women who have podiumed over the full distance in the Pro Series. And I see 6 out of the 8 of those women challenging for the top 10. And then we've got a group of other athletes who maybe haven't focused on the Pro Series, but have performed really well in other races, and I can see fighting for a top 10 finish. I'm going to run through each of those 14 athletes, starting with those Pro Series winners. First up is Jackie Hering, and she's been the surprise package of this season, currently leading the Ironman Pro Series after that huge win in Hamburg, and she backed it up with second in Lake Placid. Now she's even been good over the middle distance with podiums in St. George and Chattanooga. I think we'll see her swim somewhere in this second chase pack with the likes of Kat Matthews and Annie Haug. She's probably weakest on the bike, especially on this course, but after that 2:52 in Hamburg, I think we could see her running in the low 250s again on this course. After a slower start to the season, Danielle Lewis came 5th in Challenge Roth and backed it up with her first Ironman win in Lake Placid, which was super impressive, getting the better of Pro Series rival Jackie Hering. Now I think she'll have a big deficit coming out of the water. She's one of the weakest swimmers who I've mentioned in any of my videos so far, but she is one of the stronger bike runners in the field, and that's how she did so well at Lake Placid, so expect to see her moving through the field. Hannah Berry is the 3rd athlete that's won an Ironman in the Pro Series, taking out the win at Ironman Cairns. She also got 4th at Ironman Texas after a great swim bike performance, but she faded on the run, only managing a 3:09. She improved on that in Cairns with a 3:04, but the run is definitely her weakest discipline at the moment, and I'm expecting nearly all the athletes who finish in the top 10 to be running sub 3 hours. On to the athletes that have podiumed in the Pro Series over an Ironman, and Els Vissa has had one of the craziest race schedules I've ever seen. 12 races, including 4 Ironmans, and it's only September. Mad. She had back-to-back podiums in Roth and at Ironman Vitoria, and she's just coming off 70.3 Zalmsey, where she was super impressive on the bike, which bodes really well for Nice. She could find herself coming out of the water with Laura Philipp, and I'd love to see those two working together on the bike, especially on this course, moving through the field. Els Vissa is a serious threat for a top 10 finish, and I wouldn't be surprised if she causes an upset and makes it into the top 5. After her performance in Texas, Penny Slater looked like a serious contender for the Pro Series, but injury derailed her season. She struggled in Lake Placid with limited run training, and even her bike was a bit subpar. She'll be close to Vissa and Philipp in the water and could look to ride with them, but she's never broken 3 hours on the run, so she'll probably need a career best run split if she's going to be making it into the top 10. Lottie Williams has had podiums in Texas and in Cairns and was looking like a big threat in the Pro Series, but a DNF in Lake Placid and a DNS in Zalmsey has poured some cold water on that. Now she can still contend in the series, but she needs to have 3 good results from the 3 remaining races. She's a really strong swim biker that will have her near the front of the race from the gun, and we'll have to see where her run is because she typically runs between 3:05 and 3:10, which may not be enough to make it into the top 10. I'm just finalising the edit for this video before I post it tomorrow and realised I completely missed one of the athletes I was meant to talk about in this section, and that is Alice Alberts. She's been targeting the Ironman Pro Series this year and come away with 2 top 5 finishes, including a podium at Lake Placid. She'll probably be close to Vissa and Slater in the water and could look to ride with them on the bike, but like Penny Slater, she'll probably need a career best run split to challenge for the top 10 in Nice. After a disappointing result in Texas, my stage Nielson came second behind Jackie Herring in Hamburg with one of her best ever performances, running a 2:55. She'll swim with many of my favourites in that second chase pack, and we'll have to see if she can hang with them on the bike. She hasn't cracked the top 10 in any of her 5 IRONMAN World Championships. Could this be the race that she does it? It's been an injury-plagued season for Ruth Astle, but third at Ironman Victoria was a big step in the right direction, and it earned her her slot to these World Championships in Nice. She's a strong rider who will really like this course, but with those injury troubles, we'll have to see where her run is. I think she'll need to rediscover her run form from 2022 if she's going to make it into the top 10. Now for the group of other athletes I see challenging for the top 10, and India Lee is probably the biggest name on this list. She kicked off her season with that huge T100 win in Miami and went back-to-back at the Challenge Championships, but I think she will have been a bit disappointed with her other T100 performances. This will only be her third Ironman, and it's definitely a distance she's still learning. And even though she hasn't done it in her first 2 Ironmans, for a runner of her caliber, I think she'll be running in the 250s. The thing I'm slightly worried about is where she ends up swimming. She could find herself between this first chase pack and the second chase pack, and she may get a bit stranded there, but hopefully we'll see her maybe off the back of this first chase pack, maybe with Rebecca Clark and Florence Langri. If she has a good day, she's one of the athletes that could challenge for the top 5. It's been a disappointing year for Florence Langri. She came into the season targeting the Ironman Pro Series, 6th in Texas, 4th in Hamburg. It's by no means bad, it just shows the level of expectation I have is why I call it disappointing. She recently announced she picked up a muscle tear in her soleus, so she's had to back off the running and has only started phasing it back in, so she's been really focusing on the swim and the bike, which could play into her hands. That's how she had such a good performance in Kona in 2022, where she swam just off the back of Lucy Charles Barkley but quickly closed that gap on the bike. Could we see her do something similar in Nice? After she struggled in Kona last year, I'd love to see her back in the top 10. It's been a tough year for Mareline Pierre, but the Nice local will be extremely familiar with this course, and she's a dangerous rider when it comes to the mountains. She was really impressive at Ironman Portugal at the end of last season, and she just hasn't seemed to click with the T100 distance this year. She's dealt with some illness, but I wonder if this race has been the focus of her season. She's not coming in with great form, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's able to turn it around here. Like Pierre, Anne Richman earned her world champ slot at Ironman Portugal at the end of last year. She kicked off this season with an impressive 6th place finish at Singapore T100, but it's her challenge off performance that stood out to me, where she narrowly missed the podium, finishing behind Els Vissa. She's weakest on the swim and will have a big deficit coming out of the water, but she's a super strong bike runner and she'll be able to make her way through the field, and the run is where we could see her closing the gap and making it into the top 10. So those are the athletes I see contending for the remaining 5 spots in my top 10, and I've already picked my top 5 as you've seen over the past 5 videos with my favourites. So starting in 6th, I've got Els Vissa. She's going to be really strong on the bike, and I think she could put herself in a position to cause an upset to some of my favourites. In 7th, I've got India Lee. I'm really excited to see a race on this course, but it's only her 3rd Ironman, so I'm trying not to get too carried away, but she's another one who could step into that top 5. In 8th, I've got Jackie Herring. I'm banking on her having another great run like she did in Hamburg and not losing too much time on the bike. In 9th, I've got Anne Richman. She'll be on the back foot in the swim, but she's a super strong bike runner, and I think she'll work her way through the field. And then in 10th, I've got Florence Langri. This is where I might be letting my bias get the better of me, but I think a big swim bike focusing on her strengths in the lead up could play into her hands, and despite that injury, it could set her up for a really good day. So there we have it, my top 10 picks for the Ironman World Championships. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow where it's the last video in this series and I'll break down the Ironman Pro Series standings. See you there.